Hey, what's up guys, this is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we're going to be looking at the SH Figuarts Iron Man 2 movie War Machine figure. And this is just an amazing figure. I'm going to say right off the bat, it's definitely worth getting. It's a really cool figure. He stands a little bit taller than you might expect from SH Figuarts. He's about 6¼ inches tall, so pretty good size on this guy. For comparison, this is the Marvel Legends style Iron Man 2 movie War Machine figure, which most people consider an extremely well made figure. I myself am included in that. There's a size comparison. The new one's just a little bit taller. Personally, I don't think either of them are completely accurate. This one definitely takes some liberty. It's got a little bit of comic styling mixed into it, and this one is just not quite there. Some of the features don't look quite right, and at certain angles, each one of them looks perfectly right. So once you get to posing the figure, you'll be just fine with either one, obviously, but since we're talking about this one, it's going to be perfectly fine once you start posing it. So we'll set the $15 one aside and look at the one that's a little bit more expensive. This guy's really good. I guess before we go forward, I'll show you Iron Man also, just to give you a quick comparison of that. I'll be reviewing him separately, but there you go. So height comparison. War Machine's just a little bit taller. Iron Man's definitely a little flashier though for the display, if you're going to be doing a display. Alright, so before we talk about the accessories, let's talk about paint and sculpt and articulation. First thing is that the sculpt is fantastic. Everything is super clean, super sharp, no problems. The sculpt is as good as it can get, I think. Paints are almost the exact same level of awesomeness. The only problem I have with mine is if you look at the faceplate up close in the forehead, you can see there's just a little bit of blemishing going on, and it's nothing really to worry about. The eyes are painted in a way that makes them look lit up even if they're not, obviously because they don't light up, so they're not going to be, but they're reflective, and it's a mix of red and yellow in there to make it look lit up. The chest piece has no red or yellow in there at all. It's just silver with a little piece of clear plastic over top. Would have been nice to get a little red in there, because I'm pretty sure it was red in the movie. It might have just been white though. It's been a little while, so I could be off on that. So paint and sculpt are both good. Articulation wise, we're looking at a whole lot of stuff going on here. The neck itself is hinged, so you can bring it forward and back. Does it go side to side? I don't know. It might. Yeah, a little bit. It's going to go side to side a little bit. Just got these today. I haven't really looked at them too much. Then the head is on a ball joint. On top of that, a double ball peg. So plenty range of motion for the head. I do have one slight complaint about the head on this guy in particular, but even on Iron Man just a little bit. You don't get a whole lot of sideways rotation just because the chin gets in the way. So you're going to have to make him look up if you want him to look to the side. And there's nothing they can really do about that, so I'm not really going to complain about it. It's just something to note that the posing does get hindered a little bit by these shoulder pads. So the head's pretty good though. Shoulders are standard SH Figuarts. It's a double ball peg inside a moving socket, and then this is a ball hinge. So I guess it's not really a double ball peg. It's a ball peg connected to a ball hinge. Shoulder pad is hinged on top of that, so that won't get in the way at all. You can really do whatever you need to do with that. If you look, watch the shoulder pad as I move this. It's hinged, but it's connected to the inside part of the joint, so it really does move separately from the joint altogether. So that's pretty cool, I think. Then you have a bicep swivel right here, double jointed elbow with a moving elbow pad, and that just helps you maintain the look. However you want to pose them, you can move that around to make it look better. And then you have the little hingy part for the arm or hand pad, and the hands are just on, the hands are on ball pegs. So we're losing a little bit there from standard SH Figuarts, but it's still pretty good. I do have one little complaint about that, and we'll get to it later as far as the hands go, but it's not a big deal. Let's put that back on. And the guns. So this is kind of an accessory, but it also counts as articulation because it is hinged. There's a hinge here for these little machine guns that he has on each side. Both sides are the same. So you can bring that down, and that moves obviously, but the main purpose of that is so that you can remove the guns and then fold this back up. so that he's not quite as bulky and cumbersome, and then he just has the plain old arms. So that's pretty cool. And this just connects by 2 little tabs. You can see them built into the hinges there. Hopefully I can put this back on camera. Where's the thing? It's not the most obvious thing to do, but it will hold itself together once you find the right spot, and I did, so we got lucky. Now the torso has tons of articulation. I haven't taken it apart, obviously, so I'm not 100% sure on this. But there's at least one double ball peg in there, and by the design of it, I'm guessing a couple, because they're all individually connected. This piece, this piece, this piece, and the groin are all separate pieces. So there's tons of movement, and no matter how you pose it, you can get it to look natural. It looks really good. It looks just like it did in the movie. It's almost like a miniature Hot Toys, although it has better articulation. So the torso is just really phenomenal. Really can't stress enough how well they made that. It's pretty cool. You can see a little bit of the copyright type stuff in there, but what are you going to do? No big deal. The hips, standard SH Figuarts hips, the ball peg is on a hinge so that you can do this. And the reason you can do that is so that it looks good when the legs are up, and if you need to bring them forward, there's no place to go. So what they do is they add an extra joint in there so you can drop it and then bring it forward, and then it still looks completely normal, completely fine, but you gain the extra articulation, and it really does give you a wide range. So I mean, you can really pose this guy however you want to, and you won't have any trouble at all. That's why I think this kind of figure makes Hot Toys not worth getting, because you can't really pose those that much, which is, I think, a big detriment to the figure. Anyway, there's a ball peg in there, and then the hip swivels, or the thigh swivels around the hip as well. It's going to be a little stiff on War Machine in my experience, but it is there. So the thigh swivels around the hip for extra articulation. The knees are just double hinge knees. Done pretty well. If you completely expand it, it's not going to look the best, but you should be okay. I mean, you have to have a joint there, so it's going to get ugly one way or the other. But they did a pretty good job at that, and everything fits together nicely. The ankles have a hinge in there. You can hopefully see that, maybe? Maybe you can't. Oh well, there's a hinge that lets the foot go up and down. It rotates. There's an ankle rocker built in, so you can bring the feet from side to side. And there's a toe hinge, obviously, you can see right there. And you can bring that up pretty far, so that's not too much of a problem. All these pieces are soft and moving, so you're not going to have any trouble. The feet are die cast. I think they're die cast anyway, they sure look like it. So that's going to help adding some weight to the bottom half of the figure, and it'll help keep him standing upright, because a figure that's top heavy doesn't want to stand. So that's the main batch of articulation. We also have a little bit extra. We have the gun here, obviously, and that just pegs in. If I could take it off, it just pegs into that little circle thing right there, and it is hinged there where it pegs in. It's hinged here at the end, and then it swivels. Now the complaint I have with this is that it doesn't have any rock. You can't increase that angle at all. The only way to do that, and this is okay, it's just something I would have maybe considered if I was making the figure myself. The only way to make it aim up like that is to, how do I do that? Yeah, you have to bring it down and then rotate it. So if you want to put him in a flight pose where he's shooting, you can't bring the gun up like this. You have to fold it down and then do that. So it's a bit of a hassle, but you can still do it, so that's okay. And then as you saw, I took this off earlier, this is super soft, the ammo belt, that just clips in right here, and it clips into a similar spot on the back of the gun, and it doesn't come out too easily. I mean, it's not like it's going to fall out on its own, so don't worry about that too much. And it's, of course it's super soft, so it won't get in the way. So that's pretty cool. And we'll set that aside for now. Lots of things to set aside. He, on his back, has little flaps that open up for his thrusters, if I can get this other one open. Unfortunately, there's nothing else you can do with these. Once you open them, there's nothing that snaps in there. So that's a little bit of a letdown, but not really, because For me personally, I'm just going to have him standing on the ground anyway. But even if I wasn't gonna, that's okay. You don't need to have little fire accessories for everything. So those just hide in there. And then he has these little flaps on the legs which reveal thrusters. And now we can start talking about accessories. Firstly, those flaps come off and they can be replaced by almost identical looking flaps. The only difference is these are non-fixed, so you can pull those out. They just tab right in. You can tab in these new ones that do not have a hinge and they are fixed. So if you want to keep him flying, you don't want to worry about that folding down, you can replace it with one of those. Like I said, I'm not going to be using those too much, but they are there. And if you want to make him flying, you also have a set of, if I can get them out, okay, here, we'll just dump it. Too many things. Alright, so you also have a set of these little tiny fire bursts, which are translucent with yellow and orange and white, and those peg in on either side like that. You get 2 of those, so you can do that, which looks pretty cool. And in addition to that, you get these big bursts which go into the feet. They just peg right in, and they're made the same way, just bigger, so it looks like he's flying, which is really cool. It's a great effect. So we'll take those off so they're not in the way. Fold everything back down and talk about the other effect parts that we have. We also have little tiny machine gun bursts, and these are meant for his actual arm cannons. So those just go on like that. You get one for each side. So it looks like he's actually firing his machine guns, which is nicely achieved with those blast effects, I think. You also get a big one for his, well, it's not really shoulder mounted cannon, but for the cannon that he has, his minigun, whatever you want to call that, and that pegs into the front there, so those all have blast effects, and they look awesome in person. Hopefully they look good on camera, but they look really good in person. Couldn't ask for more. It looks sweet. And now we have a few more guns that we can look at. I should probably peg that in before I lose it. Hang on, let me peg that in. Okay. So now, other guns. We have one of these for either side. Now the thing I don't like about those is, at least as far as I can remember, he never actually used them in the movie, but the toys keep coming with it. I'm not sure if that's because he was originally going to have them or not. These are kind of tricky to get off, by the way, but they do come off like that, and then there's like a little tab in there. You can see that. These peg on to either side. You have one for both sides. And they are hinged, so they can aim up or down. They cannot really turn left to right at all, though, which is kind of a bummer because they're so close to his head, but that's okay. They do aim up and down, so that's nice. And then for his left side, the right side that you're looking at right now, you also get the ex-wife. I'm pretty sure that's what they called it in the movie, and that goes right there. And it has a little tiny flap on there. I'm not sure why. Maybe you're just supposed to fold that out, I don't know. But that's pretty cool too. It doesn't collapse into the shoulder like it did in the movie, but it does have a hinge on it. So, still pretty cool. And that can go on either side, but it was on that side in the movie if I remember correctly. Who knows, it's been a while. Okay, so let's close him up, and now we have some hands to look at. He's got a few different hands. The ones he has on right now are just closed fists. So those are alright. They're all just pegged in. They don't have any articulation other than a ball peg. So what we have otherwise are 2 kind of relaxed hands, not meant for repulsor blasts, but they do have the repulsors painted in silver on there. Both fingers, or both hands, have individually sculpted fingers. So those are those hands, and then we have some flat palm hands, which I'm not really sure what those are for, because you can't bend the wrist to go like that, so it's definitely not a repulsor hand. So I'm not really sure, but they do peg in. And that's one of the complaints I had, is that he doesn't have a repulsor hand. Even if you put on, well, either one, doesn't matter which one. These look good, I think, for repulsor blasts. You can't articulate them enough to make them be a good repulsor blast hand. The little foldy flappy thingy doesn't get in the way because it's articulated. You can fold that up, but the hand doesn't really flex enough to be a repulsor. It's just mostly going to be flat. So that's just something I didn't care for. And he doesn't have any repulsor effect parts like Iron Man either. So he does have tons of guns and effect parts for those, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not complaining. I just think it would have been cool if he had the ability to do repulsor blasts. I'll just leave that hand in there. What the heck, why not? So, I mean, there's really nothing to complain about with this guy. It's just a couple things I maybe would have wished for, but that's, again, neither here nor there, just my 2 cents on something. So I definitely recommend the figure. It's really, really awesome. You can put him in some great poses because the articulation is super effective. It's so easy to get it to look like it's coming right out of the movie. It really is an amazing action figure. And once you have it in hand, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It just looks so darn good. Absolutely great figure. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the Iron Man review, similar to this guy, but Iron Man. And stay tuned for some other reviews and some custom figures and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.